Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Go Astros. Welcome to Houston Sports Talk's live Astros-Mariners Postgame Show. Robert Land alongside Stephen Kerr. Between the two of us, 60 years combined in sports journalism. We're doing this after every single Astros postgame or after every single Astros postseason game. And Stephen, Superman came through again. He comes out, takes off the glasses, and hits another huge home run. What else can you say?
So do you think it's too soon to start building the statue that would go outside Minute Maid Park of Yordan Alvarez? Robert, you think we could start getting constructed on that pretty soon?
I think Drayton's working on it as we speak, isn't he?
Well, Drayton may be helping. Jim Crane, I'm sure, is going to have a lot to say about it too. But
yeah, Drayton was all about the statues, but just unbelievable stuff by Yordan again. Big home run, but there were other heroes in this one. And Stephen, I tell you what, the Mariners they're frisky. They're not making this easy for us.
No, they're certainly not. And you knew that they had their best ace, really their best pitcher, Luis Castillo, going. You knew he was going to have great stuff. And just, with the way the Astros offense has been so up and down, and yeah, it didn't surprise me that he had them befuddled except for those few mistakes that he made. But otherwise, he kept the team in the game. And look, Framber got shaky in the fourth inning and, had his moments, but he was sharp throughout quite a bit too. And he at least kept the team in a position to win the game. And that's really all you can ask of a pitcher. If they're not going to be totally dominating, just give the team a chance to win.
I had forgotten how shaky Framber was in the last postseason until they brought it up on the broadcast. But against the Mariners, he had been fantastic. 9 career games, 5-0, 1.94 ERA, 0 homers allowed in 51 innings. Still hasn't given up a home run. He just had those 2 innings where he got a little bit wild, Stephen. That's it.
Yeah, and I've seen this from him before, Robert. It seems like in the middle innings, I guess it happens with every pitcher. At some point, some of them do it at the very first inning. Some kind of fall apart in the 5th or 6th. Framber has had these middle inning ruts before, so it's not very surprising. But again, and there was one pitch, or there was one at bat, I know, when he walked Suarez, and Maldonado was framing the pitch, trying to make it look like a strike, and Framber got a bit irritated. And you always worry about Framber's mindset when that happens. But as I said, he kept the team in the game and at least gave him a chance to win.
Want to do a little shout out to a comment that we've got. Mr. Falcon says Yordan is on his way to being a legend. He's an amazing talent. I think that's a little bit of an understatement, Stephen.
Yeah. Well, I think we've run out of superlatives to talk about Yordan and what he's done. And I don't know about you, Robert, but after he hit that home run on Tuesday, I was on my Twitter feed and I was playing the video, and where you play the video and it just keeps going and playing back over and over again until you stop it. I lost track of how many times I have watched that video since then. Honestly, I just put that sucker on loop, sat back, and just kept watching. I mean, who could blame you? And then he does it again on Thursday. My goodness.
Yeah, if you've got a Yordan story, put it in the comments. Let's hear from you. And just a reminder to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube. That's how you can support us. We are sponsor free at the moment. We're trying to get sponsors, but we need your help. We think we're putting out some great content, several shows a week. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. But let's go back to the beginning of this game, Stephen. 2nd inning, Kyle Tucker, solo home run. 3rd inning, runners on 2nd, 2 outs. Altuve, what a play. Ozzie Smith style play to end the inning. That's what it reminded me of. And Yuli, again, shows us why you trust him at first base in the postseason, making the scoop at the other end.
That's absolutely right. And something I know we were worried about, Robert, because I know we've talked about this on the podcast, that, the way Altuve sometimes has played defense, and in fact, the whole Astros defense, during the regular season, Altuve was among the worst in defensive runs saved with a -15, but he didn't look like it today. I mean, he made that play. And I'm sure you're going to get to the next play. He made 2 plays basically where he backhands the ball, stops it up the middle.
Altuve not doing a whole lot at the plate, but boy, the plays in the field were massive in this game, still making an impact. So we go to the fourth inning, and that's where Framber really lost it. He couldn't find the strike zone, gives up the double down the line, had the wild throw to home on the squibber, and then gives up a solid RBI single to right. It's 2-1 Mariners. And the wild throw to home, Stephen, that's one where you felt like the pressure and maybe postseason things and the fact that he wasn't able to hit the strike, the frustration may have got to him because it was a bad throw. I don't even know if it was the correct decision right there either.
Well, if he may have had a little more time to throw it. I think he just felt hurried and he spun around when he threw the ball. And yeah, getting behind early in counts, and of course, walks always kill you, especially in the postseason. His curveball just wasn't breaking as sharply as it had earlier. So I think you're right, Robert. I think the frustration mounted, just with the adrenaline going and the fact that he probably wasn't in a great position to make that throw, and that's what happened.
So then we go to the sixth inning, and he gets in trouble again the second time. More bad control, couple walks, upload the bases, but Hector Neris comes in, bails him out, big play, and then bottom of the sixth, right after this, Jeremy Pena, bloop single. Jeremy Pena has been so big in this series so far. But then, of course, he sets up who else? Yordan magic. He does it again. It was like on cue. You knew he was going to do it when he walked up to the plate. You could just feel it, Steve.
You almost feel like they were playing the video from the other day, except it was a different inning. And so, yeah, a repeat of Tuesday where Pena comes up, sets up Alvarez to hit a home run. And I'm so glad that Jeremy Pena, because, the first three at-bats on Tuesday, Robert, he looked a little lost. It took him a little while to find himself. But my goodness, he found himself in that last at-bat on Tuesday, and he did it again today.
So let's go to the bottom of the eighth, because we go back to Jeremy Pena, and we can skip to other stuff, Stephen, if you want to down the road. But this is the other huge inning because he gets a tough walk, really works the count. The Mariners, they're sick of Yordan at this point. They're like, hey, there's first base.
Yeah,
and
let's walk him. They didn't even have to throw the pitches to him. Now you can just say, hey, we're walking you. Bye.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to see many if there's like bases open the rest of this series. So they give him first, and then Bregman comes up with a huge RBI single. We mentioned the 2-run homer and how that sort of got lost in the shuffle in the last game, but he comes up big, and it's an RBI single because of Jeremy Pena and his elite speed, because that would have been a play at the plate for just about every other Astro. Maybe Kyle Tucker makes it easy, maybe Altuve, but Jeremy Pena's speed there was huge to get that run in.
Carlos who? It's what, and I know Carlos was on the TBS broadcast, and I saw that today, but that's what I think Houston Chronicles Brian T. Smith said. Carlos who? Yeah, it's great to see Jeremy Pena doing this. And it's the little things, Robert. We talk about it so much in the postseason. It's the little things that sets up the big things. The only thing worse that could have happened for Seattle is if Bregman had homered. I mean, not that it would have mattered because the score ended up 4-2, but yeah, Bregman's going to make him pay for walking Alvarez. But I mean, what are you going to do? Can you blame him for walking him? I certainly would have done the same thing. Even if you have a guy like Bregman coming to the plate, I'll check my chances with him over Alvarez the way he's been batting lately.
Ryan Presley didn't look all that great, but he got that huge line drive to first base, and it leads to a double play. And that was massive in the ninth inning. The strikeout ends the game. But Stephen, I want to go back to the eighth inning because Montero pitches the eighth after, just the one, I think it was one batter in the seventh inning.
Yeah.
And so then, you thought when he got in trouble, they might go to Ryan Stanek, but Stanek never even warmed up. And I'm wondering, they mentioned about illnesses going through the Astros, and I wonder if that's the case, unless they just don't think Stanek is a good matchup against the Mariners. But, Stanek is this guy that, he could throw the ball right down the middle, and if he's on, you're not going to hit it. And, that's a guy that you really feel like you could use against this Mariners team, because right now they're showing great patience at the plate. Really worked Framber a lot in counts. They work Montero a lot. So they're doing a great job with that. You figure, Ryan Stanek, he just throws fastballs and dares you to hit it right over the middle.
Well, that's a great point. And yeah, Montero, of course, had pitched the other day, and he came in. And I tell you what, we got to mention Kyle Tucker. He saved Montero's bacon, catching that right field line drive to the right field wall in that inning, and then it gets the strikeout to Raleigh on a changeup. So, things just they all came through when they needed to. But yeah, Montero, you do have to kind of wonder about Stanek. I haven't heard anything more about the illness in the clubhouse except for the other day when it was kind of up in the air whether Framber was going to be the game 2 starter. So yeah, it is interesting that maybe, as you said, it was a matchup thing.
Any other big moments in this game that struck you or anything that I missed? I mean, I'm sure there's tons of them, but I'm blanking on them at the moment.
Well, I think that, the walks were a little bit more disturbing, I think, in this game, but, thankfully they didn't come back to haunt them. I just, you're talking about pitchers that haven't pitched in a week. Look at Hector Neris. He came on, he only threw 4 pitches, but he hadn't pitched in a week either, and he got an out. So it just varies from pitcher to pitcher of how it's going to go. Presley was a little shaky, but he did get the job done.
What did you think of the decision to go with Aledmus Diaz over Mancini? And also we had Jake Myers over Chas McCormick.
Well, I certainly agreed with the Diaz decision. And you know what, Robert? Dusty listened to you. Dusty Baker listened to you. You know what? I'll tell you what, after the season's over, Joe Espada is interviewing with the Marlins, and, he may be the new manager somewhere, whether it's with the Astros or somewhere else. They're going to be looking for a new bench coach, Robert. They may be giving you a call. So, stay by your phone.
Yeah, I'll be looking for I'll be looking for some toothpicks in the mail that'll signal me that Dusty's about to give me a phone call. But yeah, that decision, no issue with. The Jake Myers one, I don't know. He got maybe a weekend before the end of the season after looking awful for the 2 months that he played earlier this year. And I know it takes almost a year for this injury, the shoulder injury, to repair, Stephen. But the question I thought about going into this one was Jake Myers' arm. Is that going to be an issue? Because that was an issue when he was playing a couple of months ago. And I don't know if they've seen enough and they thought, well, his arm looks a lot better and it looks better than maybe Chas McCormick. So that's why we want him out there and we want the defense. But the one thing about Jake Myers is he's more of a defensive player right now than an offensive player. Chas McCormick's more of an offensive player than a defensive player. With Framber, a ground ball pitcher, I just found it a real questionable decision. And then Jake Myers didn't do anything at the plate. And they bring in Hensley, who had a fantastic at bat. I thought he's had 2 great at bats in this postseason.
Yeah, he's definitely battled. And I don't know, the whole thing with McCormick is just so puzzling. And it has been all season. And I was listening to the pregame show on Sports Talk 790, Robert. Of course, I'm in Austin, but I can listen to them on the internet. I stream them quite a bit. And they talked about how Dusty Baker doesn't seem to be that enamored with Chas McCormick. And I think you and I have talked about it too, Robert. I don't know what it is. Chas's bat is definitely better. I would rather have him in to start the game. And then if you're that concerned about making a defensive replacement, perhaps putting Myers in the late innings and doing that. But you want the bat, I think, throughout most of the game, especially the way the offense has been kind of stopping and starting, through these 2 games and really through the whole season. So, yeah, I kind of wonder about this whole Chas McCormick thing and what Dusty Baker, he just keeps him out in some of the most interesting places.
And you use Hensley, and I love Hensley, and typically I would be super happy about that. I just thought you end up using 3 players there when you only needed to use 2 because Chas McCormick is a really good hitter. I mean, it just doesn't seem like Dusty has confidence in his offense and his defense and anything that Chas McCormick, he's just in his doghouse, and I don't quite understand it. Feels like they're seeing something, Dusty's seeing something, coaches are seeing something that we aren't, because he's been relatively clutch. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I can't even remember a mistake that he's made on defense this year, and not much at all in the last 2 years. And I just don't get it. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has improved, especially playing center field. He can also play left field, and he may be more comfortable there. But gosh, you're going to have Alvarez in left field, and you're not going to take him out there. So that would be his position, would be center field. I think he's gotten better in center as time went on. And yeah, Myers didn't do anything to screw it up today. He just didn't contribute. And I think that's the difference there.
Goyo Falcone, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, ask a question, and I'm going to throw it to you, Stephen. Would you say the Astros are a dynasty? I believe if they win a championship this year, they should be considered a dynasty. What's your take? What do you think, Stephen?
I think you have to win at least two. You have to win at least multiple championships to be a dynasty. Yes, the Astros have gotten there. They've gotten to the ALCS, 5 straight, looking for 6. They've gone to the World Series multiple times, but they've only won 1. So I think it's crucial they win at least another one. And, tainted or not, they have 2 World Series championships. Then I think you can start talking about dynasty. But if they lose in the ALCS championship series and then another World Series loss, you can certainly say they've been a great team over the years. But to put the D word, yeah, I would say no, Robert. What about you?
Yeah, I feel like you got to win another championship, but I go back to that Braves team in the 90s. What would you say about them? Because they're the epitome of what the Astros are right now.
Yeah, that's another great question. I mean, the Braves certainly were in position, especially with all that great pitching, and they do talk a lot about the Braves teams, but I myself I'm not that freewheeling with the dynasty word. I think it all boils down to championships, and you can get close, and that certainly makes you a great team. And you can certainly put those Braves teams up there as some of the greatest teams in baseball history. But to say they're a dynasty, they would have had to win more championships, I think, back then.
Yeah, it's a little bit of semantics. One of the things Dusty said yesterday, Stephen, was that he might use Verlander in Game 4 because of the strange scheduling that would give Verlander full rest. But I'm not a fan of juggling the rotation when you can use somebody like Christian Javier in Game 4 and give your 39-year-old pitcher who struggled twice this season against the Mariners a little extra time. Remember, it wasn't just this last game in the postseason, but he also struggled against him in the regular season, gave up 6 runs. It was his worst start. And, Verlander struggled in the playoffs. I'm like, just let Javier pitch. There's no reason to get panicky and put Verlander in when you can give him an extra day rest. You can say that's his regular rest, but this season, a lot of times it wasn't his regular rest. We were giving guys, a 5-day break because we had 6 guys in the rotation.
Well, it's an interesting dilemma. I mean, what do? You pitch him in Game 4 and, let's say he doesn't win. Then if there is a Game 5, you pitch Javier and he's going to be the deciding factor. But I tell you what, we keep underestimating Javier, not us, Robert, you and I don't. But I will say this. There was an article I read just recently in Sports Weekly, which is a publication put out by USA Today. And they picked a player from each team, that somebody that might have been underrated but could stand out in the playoffs. And they picked Christian Javier, and rightfully so, because of all the pitchers on this staff, especially in the starting rotation, Javier's got to be your most dangerous guy, and his stuff is just absolutely electric. So I might say you probably would want to just go ahead and pitch him in Game 4. You've got enough of a bullpen where if he runs into trouble and doesn't go very deep, that you can use them and then save Verlander for Game 5 if you have to.
His stuff is better than Verlander, I'll be honest.
Oh, absolutely. Certainly lately it has been.
Oh, and I think just all year it's been better than Verlander. Verlander is such a smart pitcher and he's a veteran guy. But here's the difference, Stephen. And we always talk about the difference between regular season pitching and postseason pitching. And you can be really smart and get through on guile a lot of times in the regular season. But if your stuff isn't elite and you're not on top of your game, that doesn't always bode well in the postseason. A lot of times we'll see these guys that just have just tremendous stuff and they can't put it together over the course of a regular season for 30 games. But you get them in the postseason and everybody goes, oh my God, they have this fantastic stuff and they're so hard to hit. And they get on a little bit of a roll, and lo and behold, they're the MVP of that postseason or the MVP of a series or something.
Well, I think it's been proven. In 2017, Verlander was on in the postseason, but in the 2019 World Series, he struggled, and some other playoff games that year he struggled. So, yeah, it is a whole different game, and I'm not saying that Verlander, shouldn't pitch in the postseason, but it does kind of make you wonder if he has another rough start, Robert, in this postseason, It really has to make you wonder, well, what is the stark difference? The one thing I will say about Verlander, yes, he is smart, but one of the ways he is smart is that he does go back immediately, even during the game, or certainly after the game, and tries to fix whatever needs to be corrected. And watching video, he's very intent on doing that, and usually will bounce back. And that's what the Astros have to hope for, because if he doesn't, then it really is going to be something we have to worry about however long the Astros stay in the postseason.
Brandy, one of our viewers, says Justin Verlander has to pitch on Monday. And I won't just say that Christian Javier's got better stuff than Justin Verlander. He's got the fourth best stuff of the four starters that the Astros are going with. I think Lance's better stuff, and Framber's got, Framber's stuff is still wicked. I mean, his problem was just walking guys today. That was it.
Yeah, I know Brandy, and she is a huge Justin Verlander fan, as I am too. And I get it. I totally get it. You could say that maybe pitching him in Game 4 will help him bounce back. It will give him a chance to bounce back a little sooner than making him wait till either Game 5 or, if the Astros win this series, to be the Game 1 starter in the ALCS. So
she's saying Monday. She's saying Monday. So that is Game 5 now.
Well,
remember?
I think I know why. Yeah, that is Game 5. I know why she's saying Monday. That's her birthday. So of course she has to pitch on her birthday. So yeah, you did say Monday. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Well, happy birthday, Brandy.
That's a good reason. That's a good reason.
What about anything moving forward in this series that you're going to look for? Because the Astros now in tremendous shape, but the momentum, every time you have a day off, it just seems like the momentum goes away a little bit. You felt like, well, the Astros had a little bit of momentum going into this game after Tuesday, but it was, it was one of those things where, yeah, they've had a whole day off and the Mariners could kind of regroup.
Well, there's an old saying, Robert, is momentum is your next starting pitcher. And it almost proved that today with Luis Castillo for Seattle. I mean, he certainly gave them a chance to win the game. And now, you go into Saturday, you have a day off, you go into Saturday, you've got McCullers against George Kirby. So who's going to come out on top in that one? So really, momentum is all about who your next guy up is. And that's what I think we have to keep an eye on. The Astros are 5-4 in Seattle this season. They were 7-3 at home against them in the regular season, 5-4 when they were in Seattle. So, they weren't dominant, but it's not a ballpark that they've had trouble winning in. So I certainly think they could take, if not the next game, certainly one of these games in Seattle and wrap this up. Let's certainly hope they do that.
The one guy you have to get going at the plate is Jose Altuve, but everybody else has stepped up as far as your 2 through 6 hitters. I wasn't expecting a ton from the rest of the order. We know there's some question marks down there at the bottom, but and Yuli also 2 through 6. I think I said 2 through 6, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you got a double from Aledmys Diaz, so that was a good decision to let him start. That worked out pretty well. You get a double from him. That's great from Aledmys Diaz. And I personally would keep him in there and let him hit. I know the reasoning is supposedly, well, this is a guy with great stuff and Aledmys is going to be able to handle it a little bit better. But I just feel like he's going to make contact. And even when he makes outs, a lot of time they're loud outs. And, a lot of times Mancini, it's just a strikeout. So you might need Mancini still as a pinch hitter, but I would go with Aledmys Diaz at most for the next game and probably for the rest of the playoffs. I just don't see the reasoning for Jake Myers, moving forward. I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, I certainly have to say Diaz needs to be your guy. And that's another reason we were talking about Chas McCormick. I want his bat in the lineup. When you get to the lower end of that lineup, you need all the help you can get. I mean, you've got to start Maldonado, and you certainly had to start him with Framber pitching because Framber is such a hard guy to catch. And you could see a couple of times when, Maldonado had to really do some acrobatics to catch some of the pitches he was throwing. So he's going to be starting. So, his bat is weak at the bottom of the lineup. So you've got to have as much punch near the bottom of that order as you can get. So that's why I would say go with Diaz and go with McCormick a little bit more and start him a little bit more and try to get as much out of the bottom of the order as you can, especially in Seattle. And you know what? That place is going to be rocking, Robert, because they haven't had a playoff game there in 21 years.
I have a feeling that Maldonado will start on Saturday, but since there's 3 games in a row, I'm wondering if Christian Vasquez might start on Sunday if we get to a game 4.
It is possible, and he certainly could. I think in certain spots you could put Christian Vasquez in there, but Maldonado is definitely going to get the bulk of your starts. I mean, that's how Dusty's been rolling the whole time. So I don't think he's going to change that during the postseason.
We've gone over tons of positives in the last 2 post games, but I've got one gripe, and it's a huge gripe, and you know what I'm talking about, Stephen. The Astros.
I've been watching you on Twitter, Robert. So
I said it all through the game. The Astros fans at Minute Maid were embarrassingly bad. And they're going to say, well, we cheered and we yelled and what, but you can't just cheer when they do something good. It's the playoffs. And how you get a home field advantage to make it work is you get into it every single huge pitch that your pitcher's got, and you get into it throughout the game. You can't wait for momentum and wait to do something good. You've got to force momentum by your voice and your loudness and your enthusiasm. You got to get in the other team's heads. They were sitting on their hands all through this game. It's an afternoon game. I get it, but there was no reason for this. I mean, after what happened on Tuesday, I can't believe how quiet this crowd was.
I absolutely can't either. And I'll tell you something, it needs to start before the first pitch is thrown. You need to get your head in the game and be loud before the game even starts, and just keep it up. I mean, I know baseball is not like football, and it's not as explosive in the sense of, play after play, but come on. And here's another reason you need to do that, Robert. You've got, the pitchers have the pitch comms where they have to hear the catcher. Can you think about the fans screaming and hollering when the opposing pitcher is on the mound, and they're going to have trouble hearing the pitch comm? They're going to have, and then the pitch clock's going to be coming pretty soon. That's a factor that you can weigh in. But right now, you can get in the pitchers' heads just by screaming and yelling, even if, somebody hadn't just hit a home run. So you're absolutely right. In fact, I put this out on Twitter. My question was, did the Astros have security guards dressed up as librarians going through the crowd, telling them, shh, be quiet every time they got loud?
I saw on Twitter, somebody tweeted out. Yeah, somebody tweeted out their Minute Maid library. And that's what it sounded like. And I wasn't the only one. I saw a bunch of people on social media.
I did too.
And it wasn't great either on Tuesday. This is, frankly, Stephen, this is a habit from Houston fans. And it's got to change. If you want to become a real sports town, your fans have got to get into it in the playoffs way more than this. This was pathetic. Yeah,
I agree. I think it was actually a little louder Tuesday than it was. Not much, but a little bit louder Tuesday. Today, it just seemed like you could almost hear a pin drop. And I don't know if everybody was having the hangover after the Alvarez home run, including Astros fans. They cheered themselves out for the last couple of days. But come on, guys, let's cheer loud. It doesn't have to always be something going on for you to scream your head off and, get into the other team's heads. It can happen in baseball, at least to some degree.
Yeah, I just see this as like a recurring issue. And forget hangover. I think maybe we need to hand out free drinks, Stephen, at the Astros game or something like that.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, anything to get them going. I mean, I'll tell you what, I've been to some, I live in Austin, and I've been to some UT games where it's just a whole lot louder than Astros games, especially because you're sitting in a part of the stands and some of these guys are drunk and they're carrying on. Well, I don't promote drinking and being drunk, but hey, whatever you got to do to get these fans loud, let's get them loud.
Any final thoughts before we take off?
Well, Dusty Baker made a comment at the end, after the regular season ended, that I thought was interesting. He said the Astros were winning, but they weren't hot. And, he may have a point to some degree. They have pulled out these 2 games, Robert, certainly, but they've had to rely on 1 or 2 guys to do it. I mean, mainly Yordan Alvarez and, Kyle Tucker, a few others have contributed. But I still need to see a more consistent offense going here, because that's the way it's been all year. They've been up and down and up and down. And yes, I know it's the postseason. You're facing the best pitching that you possibly can. But I still think that this team offensively can bring it some more, and want to see that in Seattle.
Yeah, good pitching, by the way, by Castillo. He was very good, and I'll give that guy his props. He's a darn good pitcher. There's a reason why he has all the buzz that he does have. And I also want to remind everybody that on Wednesday, my regular co-host Sean Bajani with Sports Radio 610 joined me on the show to go straight hope and positivity on the Rockets and Texans. So it wasn't just Astros positivity after the Yordan home run. We had hope and positivity for all of the Houston franchises. If you need Houston sports hope, go back and listen. Earlier today, I had my weekly visit with my NFL fantasy football expert, Andy Rio. It's in the feed. It's on YouTube. Check it out. It's way more than fantasy, though. Andy walks us through the best NFL matchups and storylines each week. I'm telling you, the guy knows his stuff. I've known him for 30 years. We went to college together. It's been like 15 or 20 years that he's worked up for fantasy websites, but you know, he just knows it. I mean, he lives it and breathes it, and it's great stuff. And we always open with Texans conversation, so make sure to check it out. Steve and I, we're going to be back for Astros live post games as long as the season keeps going.
Yeah,
the next one, the next one is after the 3 p.m. Saturday game. So Saturday, and if they go another, it's a Sunday afternoon game. So we're sticking in the afternoon. So we'll be early evening both times. Tell your friends, tell people that you know what we're doing. Hope you're enjoying it. And thanks again, Stephen, for helping me with this.
You bet, Robert. We'll see you on Saturday.
Fantastic.
Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.